It's a new month, and with it, new possibilities for continued prosperity. Yes, we're claiming it. Positive thoughts with concrete actions always leads to positive outcomes. Hi there. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Jamaica Magazine. We have a packed show filled with observances for the month. Stay with us.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs on our manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your hand with water and soap. Keep dirty hands from your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want to be sick, take care. Practice every day, no germs on here. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, April 1. The Ministry of Health says the country continues to be on influenza or flu alert. In a release, the ministry says it notes recent public concerns around influenza A caused by the H1N1 virus and cautions that the flu is to be taken seriously, as it can lead to pneumonia and blood infections and cause diarrhea and seizures in children. The flu can also worsen chronic medical conditions such as heart or lung disease. Additionally, the ministry says infants and young children, adults 60 years and older, pregnant women, and persons with chronic medical conditions or weakened immune systems are at high risk of serious complications from the flu. The Ministry of Health has confirmed the deaths resulting from complications arising from influenza, including H1N1, and as a result increased its public awareness campaign and put in place enhanced infection control measures in public hospitals and health facilities. Medication stocks have been increased at health facilities to respond to the increase in the number of persons being hospitalized. Opening hours have also been extended at health centers. Influenza A H1N1 is an acute respiratory infection caused by the influenza type A H1N1 virus. It is one of a number of viruses that result in seasonal flu in the island annually. All assets and some liabilities of the PetroCaribe Development Fund, PCDF, have been integrated into the Ministry of Finance as of yesterday, March 31. CEO of the PCDF, Dr. Wesley Hughes, says the integration allowed Jamaica to repay approximately 50% of its $3.2 billion debt to Venezuela. In addition, Dr. Hughes says the fund, as a separate entity, will cease to exist.
We are extremely proud of our accomplishments at the fund and the contribution that the fund has been able to make to Jamaica's overall development, both at the macroeconomic level and at the infrastructural development, the human capital development, and in other areas generally. And the governance arrangements within the fund allowed us to operate effectively and without too much fuss and bother, to allow us to accomplish what we were set up to accomplish.
Dr. Hughes was speaking at a JIS think tank recently. The fund was established from an agreement between Venezuela and a group of countries in the Caribbean and Central America due to the increase in oil prices and the attempt to find a way to improve the impact of the increase on these countries. And finally, Jamaica is ranked 14 in the top 25 best destinations in the world for 2019 by TripAdvisor. The ranking is listed on the TripAdvisor Traveler's Choice Awards World's Best Destinations. The country is also listed as the best destination in the Caribbean and is the only island in the region to have been selected. Jamaica is named among destinations such as London, Paris, Rome, Crete, and Bali, which rounds off the top 5. TripAdvisor says the travel destination list was compiled based on reviews and ratings by millions of travelers who use this website to rank their experiences. TripAdvisor is the world's largest travel site with over 730 million reviews and opinions, covering the world's largest selection of travel listings worldwide. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
If you no want pop down and fenke, you fi burn mosquito and run with dengue. So no make water settle in open container. For them me breed up under the danger. Usher them out, run them away. Zap them with the zapper and done them with spray. Use mosquito net and mosquito screen. Protect your household, now make them come in. If you no want pop down and fenke, if you burn mosquito and run with dengue. If pain lick your head and your joints and your eye, and you want fever meat and your temperature high, it could be dengue, don't hesitate. See a doctor, don't self-medicate. For some painkiller can make you bleed and you will try to recover and no succeed. We no want pop down and fenke. We fi burn mosquito and run with dengue.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
Today marks the start of the new financial year. The government intends to spend $803 billion on its policies and programs for 2019-2020. Find out about activities planned for the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
New social housing program, credit enhancement and access to financing, all-island water projects, and the major infrastructure legacy projects. Just some of the initiatives that will be prioritized by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation in 2019-2020. And with the $29.3 billion earmarked to carry out its functions, the ministry will fast-track growth-inducing programs towards a new prosperous Jamaica.
We aim to maintain while we rehabilitate, upgrade, improve, and increase the performance of all roadways in Jamaica.
The lion's share, or $8.42 billion of the ministry's capital budget, will go towards the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Under the program, work will start on the first phase of the 110-kilometer of roadway between Harborview and Port Antonio. The East-West Highway project will also be extended to include the stretch of road between Mapen Clarendon and Williamsfield, Manchester. The ministry plans to spend $339.8 million on pre-investment planning and preparatory works for 4 major projects. And an additional $1.23 billion will be put towards improving other roads and infrastructure development. Still on roads, the major infrastructure development program will gain more traction in the upcoming financial year. Phase 1 of Mandela Highway is expected to be completed. So too is the Barbican Roadway, as well as 54 local roads. Works will continue on the Hagley Park, Constant Spring and Ferris to Macfield roadways. $586.4 million will be used to complete the Broadgate to Agualta Vale corridor. Mitigating and infrastructural works to reduce the impact of natural disasters, valued at $491.6 million, will be carried out in the fiscal year. And traffic management and control in urban areas will be enhanced by a $64 million allocation. The second city of Montego Bay in St. James is tapped for more improvements in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. $1.45 billion will be pumped into the Montego Bay Bypass, the closed Harbour Beach Park, and the city's waterfront protection project.
And that's one of the biggest areas of my concentration, is to ensure that the titling process that will enable the people from the inner city that have suffered from a lack of security of tenure, that they will be given that security.
A comprehensive, multi-agency national survey on squatter settlements will be undertaken in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. $323.6 million of the National Land Agency's budget will support land titling activities. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation will be spending $810.9 million on water supply services in the 2019-20 fiscal year. The bulk of the funds, $795.3 million, will be used to implement projects by the Rural Water Supply Limited. These include upgrades to water supply systems in St. Mary, St. James, Clarendon, St. Elizabeth and St. Anne, rehabilitation of catchment tanks in Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, St. Anne and Manchester, as well as the installation of gutters, storage and solar pumps at the Mapen Infirmary and 4 other rural area schools. The rest of the funds, $15.6 million, will facilitate the Hermitage Dam rehabilitation study.
What we're trying to do is to make sure that no citizen is without access to clean, healthy water.
Over $915 million has been set aside for environmental protection and conservation. Of that amount, $703.7 million will carry out activities under the pilot program for climate resilience. $119 million will be used to continue the protection of the Yallah's Hope River watershed. A $60 million project targeting the Negril Great Morass will be undertaken. And the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA will be spearheading government's $33 million plastic waste management project.
MSMEs play an important role in the economic growth, and therefore it is important that their vulnerability to climate change is also reduced, but that we create the environment for new market opportunities.
The Ministry of Economic Growth has set aside $1 billion to increase support to the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise MSME sector. The Development Bank of Jamaica has also set aside $1 billion to give 600 SMEs access guarantees for medium and long-term loans.
We must allocate or make investments which will support our startups. And we need to enrich the MSME ecosystem. This is vital for our economic growth and development.
The ministry has set aside $306.2 million to stimulate growth in the export market by integrating global supply and value chains. The Special Economic Zone Authority will be using $251.3 million to support the development of the industrial infrastructure necessary for logistics. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, playing its part to realize the new Jamaica.
Be an active participant in your child's life. Spend time with your child. No phones, no television, no distractions, just the two of you. Get to know your child through play. Why not go to the park and get on the monkey bars? Sharing a meal can also be a time of bonding. If your child's in school, be involved in school activities. Speak with your child's teacher, follow up on their progress in school, and see how you can help. Assist them with homework. Attend parent-teacher meetings and support school fundraising events. Remember, your child's future is in your hands. Safeguard it.
So glad you are a child of mine.
As we prepare to celebrate Autism Awareness Day on April 2, we highlight what the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is doing to support this segment of the population.
There's much more to educating our children than confining them to textbooks or curricula. Every child has their learning style, and sometimes it's made difficult when it's compounded with a learning disorder. Hello, I'm Carrie Ann Smith. The number of diagnosed cases of autism in Jamaica is on the increase, and the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that provisions are in place to facilitate the learning of these students. With me is Acting Assistant Chief Education Officer in the Special Education Unit in the Ministry, Mrs. Ann Newman. Welcome.
Thank you, Carrie.
All right, so let's get into it. What are the numbers as it relates to the increase in autism in schools?
Okay, the Center for Disease Control in the United States suggests that there's a ratio of 1 in every 6 to 8 births. When that is applied to a Jamaican birth rate in Jamaica, it means that as many as 500 odd students or children could be born with autism.
Okay.
And it is skewed towards boys, so the ratio is 4-to-1.
All right, before we even get into exploring the issue, what is autism?
Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder that's usually diagnosed by age 4. Children with autism or who are on the spectrum usually manifest some disorders in communication, social disorders, and very often have behavioral disorders.
So how is the ministry handling the cases in schools?
Well, for the cases that come to our attention, because remember that we now have a passbook that's monitored in the Early Childhood Commission years. So students coming over to main ministry would travel with their passbook, and hopefully by that time, at age 6, they would have been diagnosed. Unfortunately, some students have fell through the cracks and are not diagnosed as early. So once they're brought to our attention and there is a diagnosis, then we can do the appropriate placement. Remember I said it's a spectrum disorder, So some children have a mild case, and some children more moderate or severe. Students who are on the spectrum need different interventions. So depending on the severity of the diagnosis, whether it's mild, moderate or severe, they are placed in the appropriate settings. Students with mild autism usually are educated in the mainstream, whereas others who are severe or in the moderate range are educated in our special schools.
Okay, so it's important for them to be diagnosed early.
Critical. Early diagnosis and intervention is the key to the measure of success we have.
Right, so now that you're talking, it seems to me it's a holistic approach because parents need to ensure that if it is that they're seeing any of these signs, that they get their children tested.
Parents need to remember that they're usually their child's first teacher, and they need to follow their instinct, and wherever they have reason to be suspicious that something could not be quite so right, it is their responsibility to seek professional advice and assistance.
All right. So what are the programs or intervention strategies that are in place to ensure that these children are not lost in the system?
Okay, again, we go back to early intervention. Right. Once students are diagnosed, then it is the responsibility of the parents, and if they're in a school program, early childhood, or wherever they may be on the continuum, it is the responsibility of the system to make the appropriate referrals. Persons can come to ministry at any time, the special education unit, for us to advise and help with placement of students.
I know that the ministry promotes an inclusive, integrated system. Are the schools prepared for this?
There is some measure of preparedness. Since 2005, all teachers in Teachers College were exposed to an introductory course in exceptionalities. This course really is just a cursory course, and it means that teachers in the regular system should be able to detect and have reasons to suspect that if a child is not developing along the normal path, and suggest to parents that they have the child assessed. Once the assessment is done and the diagnosis is made, you'll get a fulsome report that gives recommendations as to the way where the child should be educated and programs that the child will need, support programs that the child will need. In addition to the training of teachers, we now have special needs coordinators who work with the regular schools that will develop and present workshops depending on the needs in the school. And those children who are in the mainstream can be educated by specially trained special educators in pull-out classes or self-contained classes.
Okay, and how should we treat these children? You know, many times we label them as just rude, out of order. How should we even react to them?
Well, first of all, it needs an understanding. And sometimes we are not as sympathetic as we ought to be. But the first thing is, if we give unconditional love, then we will see that children who may act outside of what we consider the norm are actually having some difficulty. And we need to just be empathetic to their parents, not label them.
Thank you so much. But before we go, can you just leave us with a few tips, parents, teachers, as to how we can deal with children with autism?
I can't overemphasize. Early intervention is the best. And I would also recommend to parents, once a child has been diagnosed to be on the spectrum, that they join a support group. There's a Jamaica Autism support group, and just to get feedback and support from other parents who are in a similar situation cuts the journey in half. And to teachers, seek more information. There's always, as a professional, we always need to develop and grow. There's a lot of information on the net. Seek more information. It will make you a better professional.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Newman.
My pleasure.
Finger-licking jerk chicken, Helcher fish and bami, will run down yam and banana, roast breadfruit, sweet potato pudding. Jamaica food sweet. So let's make a pledge to use more local produce and less foreign goods. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
It's the official start of Farmers' Month, and what better way to celebrate than by showcasing one of our food producers.
I got into farming because my hobby was gardening. I was nuts about plants, flowers. So it was kind of a natural area to look for when I was looking for something to do. I started in an area that didn't have water, so I was not able to irrigate. And with climate change, it made things really, really unpredictable, very risky, and just difficult. So I don't consider myself as having really started farming until I moved into this agro park, where I was able to irrigate and do things in an optimal way.
Amity All is approximately 2,400 acres. We have 22 investors, 5 of which are female. The soil is predominantly Sydenham clay, and the crops that do well here, we have the cooker bits. That would include pumpkins, sweet potatoes, zucchini, squash. Also a few tubers do very well, sweet potatoes and cassava. Those crops do very well. We also have a lot of farmers who have gone into the Scotch bonnet pepper, and they're also doing very well. Once we manage the water application with the type of soil that we have and give proper nutrition, these crops do very well.
Life has been a learning experience primarily because of the Sydenham clay, but I don't know if that's particular to this park. I think anywhere that you go, you have to learn to work with what you have. So it's been a learning experience, and but one good thing about it is that you see the rewards at the end of the day because you're able to irrigate or fertigate, which is fertilizing through the irrigation system. So you're getting closer. I see myself inching closer and closer to the point where I'll get optimal yields, which is what every farmer wants. Everything that I produce goes to food processors. And the particular processor that I sell to, 90% of their output is exported. So I like to think that I'm a part of that whole chain that is earning foreign exchange for the country. I plant only hot peppers. I'm trying this year to try and stretch myself and learn other things. So I'm hoping on the boundaries I've created little areas where I'm going to do some experimentation. But for now, I'm only doing hot peppers and specifically Scotch bonnet. I've set myself the challenge of trying to master that because of the 2 types that we grow here in Jamaica, that definitely is the most demanding one. So still going up the learning curve. I think the reason why I settled on peppers is because you can sell it. You don't have to scratch your head and wonder where you're going to sell it. Because most of the processors have back orders, export orders. And in fact, we've found ourselves in the situation in Jamaica where processors have to import pepper mash. So you will never, ever have a problem selling your product. If you never went to farm school, if you don't really have experience, try to get into a situation where people are readily accessible to give you that encouragement, not just advice, technical advice, but also encouragement, because sometimes you may go through a little period where you feel, wow, is this really worth it? And that support is valuable. But that's one thing. In terms of practical advice, don't go anywhere without water. Just don't go anywhere without water. That's the mistake I made. And the second thing is try to farm reasonably close to where you live. Another mistake that I made, because how often you go to your farm, the hours you put in, it shows. The further away you live, you try and cut corners here and cut corners there, and it will show.
When you come to Amity All, there are a few things. There are things here that can help to foster your production. One, we have a team of stakeholders working together to cater to your needs. We have the RAD extension officers, we have the persons from NIC, we have the team from AIC. We also have a group of farmers that are willing to work together to help to move the produce not from the ground to the plate.
Speeding through life and the traffic lights till somebody get hurt and the tears start cry. Save a life for the kids, for you and I. Save kids' lives. Make the road safe whether day or night, for pedestrians, passengers, cars and bikes. Save a life for the kids, for you and I. Save kids' lives.
Hey man, it's our job to keep the road them safe. Have to take care of the youth them so we know them safe. And obey the road code, no race. No bother with the speeding case, make face. And check your light them on your tires and brakes. Riders on the pillions who left the helmet. I put on the cell phone, no send no text. No matter what color they on your plate.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, you can save a life. When you're on the road, when you're on the road, I beg you please be safe. Wear your seatbelt to keep you safe, and make sure your helmet's in place when you're on the road.
Hey, follow me. Well, everybody drive good and walk good. Then teach the youth them how to cross good. I beg you obey the road signs, park good. And put the young ones in a car seats, all good. And everybody drive good and walk good. And we say young and old, I beg you cross good. Remember the dark close at night, that is not good. From you I use up the sidewalk, it's all good.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, you can save a life. When you're on the road, when you're on the road, I beg you please be safe. Wear your seatbelt to keep you safe, and make sure your helmet's in place. When you're on the road, when you're on the road, when you're on the road.
And that's where we close out Jamaica Magazine, but only for today. We return round about the same time tomorrow right here on this station. We also maintain an active online presence, so be sure to visit jis.gov.jm. Do join us on all the major social media platforms or download our mobile app to your smartphone. On behalf of the entire news and production team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.